And this is when Maru feels like Maru again. The theoretical crowd is cheering for an amazing, flawless victory. The dreams of a Terran in the finals is still alive. And Ephemeron actually continues to hold up that narrative. Perfectly fine. One of the maps where he got the biggest delay of engineering bay block on him. Love to hit on Chad's like the stuff at the top of the food chain. Exactly. Yes. So Ephemeron does have a decent length between the natural and the third. Most of the maps, I would say, have this actual length. Eternal might be one of the shorter ones, maybe. Nightshade is pretty big, but the idea of the queen stops being fast from here to here. It's a long distance. And then, like, technically, you can also just dance around the queen this way for a while longer. It's a long time not to have a third base. Very effective block from Maru. Within micros. Perfectly back home. Gets the drone. Super big delay. This was bad for Rogue. But this happens again to Rogue later in the series, and he still wins off of it. So it's not game ending. But yeah, the creep tumor is delayed as the queen wants to go forward. She wants to inject as well, because you're going to be on 2 bases for a while. You're going to start stockpiling minerals. The third isn't being used. It's not being put down. You need to inject first. Creep is delayed. Creep is further delayed. Queen production is also delayed. A queen does get produced off the third 9 times out of 10. Or Overlord speed. Oh, that's another thing that didn't really happen. After the Overlord speed nerf, Zergs were still doing it for the most part. And then a lot of the Koreans, specifically, did not care about going for Overlord speed. But at the same time, that Terrans didn't care about doing Battlecruiser openers. I mean, what's up with that? What's up with that? Is Rogue OP or is Zerg OP? I mean... Here's the bombshell moment, guys. I think Zerg might be just a little bit too strong. I think there needs to be a couple more, like, scaling back on some things. And then maybe we'll find something, but... Was Rogue very good in this series? Absolutely. I think the first 4 games were a testament to the players and their reactions to each other, and that 5th game was a little bit of the whole, that sucked because Zerg just kind of got ahead. And the Terran felt desperate to end the game. I think that 5th game was more indicative of people's perception of a balance problem, and perhaps indicative of an actual balance problem. First 4 games, not so much. Again, good queen block on that main. It's gonna be a lot more damage, but I mean, this was a delayed third, delayed creep spread, more damage taken by the Hellions. The counterattack does not do very much. Let's go back and watch how he uses his production facility, guys. I brought this up in that last game. So, Starport does not make a tech lab. Factory is used to build a reactor. This, I believe, means that he will have a faster double drop than he will have a tank push. Definitely for the tank push, that much is easy to tell because there's just not tanks being produced. But yeah, this usually means the faster 2 medevac drop. I believe that, so the tank push hits at like 7 minutes, let's say. I think the 2 medevac drop hits at 6:30. There is a 3cc build that has a 2 medevac drop at 5:30, but that's neither here nor there. He did make a lot of Hellions this game. 8 once again, but they were pretty effective at what they did. His third isn't delayed, it's still turning into orbital, so it doesn't matter. And he doesn't rely He has a like, again, that slightly just like faster marine production. So while a tank can get overwhelmed by a handful of lings, 16 marines are less likely to be overwhelmed. And then this was the game where he went no tanks, and then he went to Hellions, which I think is just very weird. Hey, I was right. It actually looks like he kind of messed up, though. Not that I dare say anything about our Lord and Savior Maru, but it looks like he actually messed up his build. There was 2 times at least when the Marines were being produced at double rate. I'm just saying, Maru. If you had 2 more Marines, maybe you would have won the series. Anyways, yeah, so this Ling Rumbai is actually kind of potent right now, but Rogue has not done a lot of scouting a lot of the series, and he certainly hasn't done enough scouting. It's really hard to get the scout in when this very small difference happens anyways. The difference of, like, is he tank pushing me versus is he dropping me faster, so. If he had known 100%, maybe he runs it with the Lings right now, but bit of an anti-timing. The Marine count's already growing too heavy. And then, I guess, okay, so I'm really going to try and figure out this Hellion thing, guys, and feel free to chime in with your own thoughts. Hellions are not very good past the point of defending your third and controlling the map and scouting, I guess. Their cone splash is negligible. It's basically nothing. It's just the attack. It's not so much splash. They clump as much as Marines and work about as effectively at dealing with banelings as Marines, honestly, even though they are chunkier. They're just not really seen as useful as one big Widowmine splash or a consistent tank fire. People have tried using Hellbats. There was a period of time on Alterzim Stronghold, oh my god, where Hellbats were the bomb diggity. Flash was using Hellbats. And it worked for a little while. But you know what else worked for a little while? Marine King Prime's no factory all bio style. You know what, that stopped working because people got better. Just got better. So for Maru to try and almost bring this back is really weird to me. But one thing I'll say is that if you're producing Hellions here, you're covering any run-by that could happen, that does happen, a little bit nicer than you would with Widowmines or tanks, because tanks can get surrounded by Lings, and Widowmines probably aren't burrowed. And they're not helpful if they're not burrowed. Come on, a bit beefier for getting the training food of 2 people. You'd think so. You would think so. How many burrow builds are copied with the massive when they just mess up their own builds? A decent amount, I'm sure. I know a couple of my builder tutorials have had less than perfect macro. Thank you, GVL Oxer. It was a great casting team. Indeed. So anyways, let's keep watching. So the Hellions, I guess, could try and help out here. I'd be interested to know what is the fastest factory production. I'm gonna guess Widowmines are Hellions, not tanks or Thors. So there's that drop, which was around 630, but obviously it took a bit of a detour. Let's try and clean up the creep spread. Still building those Hellions. This is the game where those Hellions look fucking amazing, by the way, but this is a rarity, okay? Like, that's just... But ZombieGrub, they did so well. How can you say they're bad? Look, okay, stop. Shut up. Some things are bad when they look good, and vice versa. Oh, he supply blocked. Oh, we're just gonna find all the faults in Maru's play right now. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because, like, the funniest thing happens, right? Like, Rogue, he's in a bad spot because of the earlier game harassment. Don't think we can really argue that. His creep spread has done a surprisingly good job of, like, making up for the early game. But what's so funny is that this doesn't happen beyond Diamond League very often, guys. Maru just goes, you know what? Fuck your creep spread. I don't care anymore. He probably wasn't going to say fuck your creep spread until he realized he was being countered. But yeah, he just continues pushing forward. He's like, fuck whatever. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. And then I cannot believe how effective this SCV pull was. Like, what the fuck? It does help that the Lings were bothering with the command center instead of helping, but I mean, how many Marines is that? 8 Marines with an SCV pull against 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 24 Lings. The idea is that a Marine beats 2 Lings. A Zealot beats 4 Lings. So, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was. But if these Lings were here too, it would have been different. Still though. Still. It's less about the direct, like, count of Lings to Marines and more about, like, the situation that usually happens. Usually, the Marines are caught first and they die. But the SCV pool is actually so fucking perfect. Most of the Marines are behind SCVs. Look at that! Look at them! They're like force fielded! That almost never happens. And Rogue's like, well, fuck, that didn't work. And he has like 4 Banelings. Doesn't help. Because Terrans aren't supposed to push this aggressively on creep. The creep is supposed to buy you a lot of time. And Maru was like, la 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 la. But he was totally in the right to do so. Totally in the right to do so. I think in any other games it would be a dumb idea that just, you know, coincidentally found a weakness. But in this game, it absolutely makes sense that Rogue would not have enough to do a gigantic run by, as well as have enough to defend a push. But if this was enough Banelings, if this was 10 Banelings with difficult hooks, the Hellbats, like, they just don't help that much. And I'll really get vindicated with this whole spiel come the 50th. Oh, look at it. That's pretty much on par with Blue Flame Hellions killing an entire probe line. Scrumptious. That was my dinner right there, guys. It's often incidental. Could the Hellion thing be about getting more scouting, too? Well, he's... probably not, because he's doing the way he uses the Hellions is exactly the same way you would use Widow Mines in particular. Tanks are slower, so they're not quite that way, but you're using it very mobile, just like you would use Widow Mines. So you don't get less or more scouting if you go Hellbats with that. And actually, Hellbats take up more space than a medevac. You can do a double Hellbat drop on a drone line or a quadruple Widow Mine drop. Factory production. Okay, Hellion Widow Mines are the same. I thought they might be. And then, yeah, the Thor being the most, I mean, it's just like every ZVT is like, oh, just make Thors, it won't be a problem. 1 billion years later. That makes sense. But a full 10 seconds, 11 seconds from Cyclone Siege Tank, but the point is Hellion Widow Mine is the same, so there's no benefit in that. So that's not the secret to success there. It could be the secret to sex, being 10 seconds faster. But the secret to success? I don't know about that. Hello, hello. Well, what? I wonder how many people didn't see Pig's amazing secret. Well, we're not going to delve too deep into that, I think. This is analysis of StarCraft, guys. Get your dirty minds out of your analysis. He did miss sex. I mean, if you didn't watch the audio clip, you should definitely watch it, because it's not one of those things where we're making fun of someone saying success, and it's like, haha, you mispronounced it. It's like the tone of finality and punctuation was used. Anyways, so Zen is a kind of absurd map. I hate it. Fucking hate it. But, you know, we all know kind of the broad overall things about it. If you go from here to here, it is the shortest rush distance in the map pool. Not by that much longer than the other maps, but still considerable in these high-pressure scenarios. If you go through the middle of the map, you can go through with it with one space unit, so Marines and Lings primarily. Wood mines as well. I don't know about Hellbats, actually. Are Hellbats chonky? Are they 2? Anyways. Tanks? Definitely not. Tanks are too fat. So, this actually is a map we don't see that often. It's just vetoed by the other player. But if it does come down to a TVZ, it does seem to be more vetoed for the Zerg player than the Terran. Don't quote me on that. We don't actually get access to the vetoes, but I would expect it to be as such. Hold on here. Guess wrong. Oops. Okay, we're good again. Anyways, so for Zerg, they have to deal with a push that I feel like I sound different now. It's fine. I'm used to it. Like, you can wall off here, you can attack from here, and you can attack down here. And you're already kind of in the Zerg's face. It's a little bit scary. On Terran side of things, they see this, and they see, like, maybe initially a bit of a choke, right? And they're like, cool, this is very simple. If I get on this side of that wall, any run by or counter or surround is going to take a little while to set up, and I'm Gucci. In my experience, what happens, you think you're good to go here, but they actually do set up a gigantic surround and still cut off your reinforcements. And then your tanks are also like, I can't go through the middle. I'm going to just dip right over here for some reason. You don't even know. You don't even know, man. And then you get fucking screwed anyways, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Personal feelings aside, it does seem like this would be a nice Terran map, but didn't get much time to go into the map analysis because there was the proxy hidden factory. Rogue basically made or break his best of 5 right here, right now, which is what I went over on the Telestrator. I mean, obviously, Rogue has to survive this game to win the series. He's down on his last life. But considering how smart this was from Maru, it's a great way to capitalize on momentum you just gained from the previous 2 series, especially that last game where you got a very swift victory, dominating one. To go into a tricky build that isn't most likely not going to be scouted, and it's not scouted to the last second. I mean, this, like just said, it really had victory written all over it. Rogue has done a lot of not scouting in this series, certainly at Overlord speed. I don't believe he's done a very good job or a very consistent job of doing Ling runarounds, but this is actually the game that he decided to do so. I'm not sure based off of what. I think it was just coincidental. I think it was just like, hey, it's Maru. If he's not 2-raxing me to win a Series 3-1, then he's doing something sneaky to get the victory. And that is one of perhaps the weaknesses of Maru, is that he can be so aggressive and you expect that aggressiveness, so if he does play into it, sometimes it still works. Sometimes he 2-raxes someone when they're expecting it and he fucking wins with it and you're like, oh, alright. But I feel like maybe that's why Rogue actually had a Ling running around. He was like, you're gonna try and kill me early, aren't you? He really doesn't see anything. Worth noting, I believe that was the first Viking opener that Maru has shown. I think the Banshee opener of the first game was Banshee. Not Viking Banshee, I believe. And the last 2 games were Liberators. So that also might have been a clue. Because what is the Vikings' most obvious job? Stop scouting. Yeah. That might have been a clue. On top of Maru being the type of guy who would just close it out. He gets a scout here. It's still a fairly late scout. You know, like Blue Flame is over 60% done and now he can just go. I think he would have waited a little while longer, but he can go and have Blue Flame and Armory finished around the same time. But Rogue, I mean, this is also a great map for it. Something I point out in the cast because it's very hard to wall off such a large choke. This is not this choke, which is 2 evolution chambers. It's this one. And he's got creep tumors in place, not anticipating ever having to wall this off. So adds just a bit of a... This could have been worse. If this was over here, this could have been worse. But, you know, that 10 seconds difference of the scout really is quite important. This would not have been up. It would have been at very, very low health instead of somewhat decent health. Ling run by also... This is actually a gigantic mistake by Maru. Well, not a mistake. It was a decision that ended up souring things. So he wants to use the quickness of the map to his advantage because Hellions go through the single mineral thingy. But in doing so, he also opens himself up to run by. So if this had been here and he had just holed up with Hellions, he does not take, I think it was like 7 SCVs worth of damage. Queens are pretty good. They are very, very slowly killing these units. Medevac is also just a bit late to the party, which is a little bit weird. Just seems to be finally executed build for the most part. Zoinks. And Medevac is a little late to the party. She's not boosted over. Get good, Maru. Oh, she is boosted. Just kidding. Sorry. That's at least one more Hellbat alive. Oh, it's actually more than that. Medevac could have been very helpful here. A little bit earlier. So 8 SCVs go down. Lots of lost mining time. Hellions forced to not reinforce. 9 SCVs in total. Puts them at 29 worker to 41 worker difference. Not the worst there. The queen count has lived for an extraordinarily long time. He's only lost 1 queen. And he's still producing queens while this is going on as well, which is kind of it's a thing to note because so often, even amongst the professionals, we see a big oh fuck moment of just you stop doing anything except microing because it's about not dying. But he is still building everything he needs. He's even building a roach warren again while this is still going on. At this point, it seems pretty clear he's going to be able to clean it up. And he really didn't lose that many queens. He actually only lost 2 queens. I definitely thought it was at least 3, if not 4. But no, only 2. That's actually really quite nice. And while he wasn't able to drone during that engagement, he didn't actually lose any drones either. While dealing economic damage to Maru. If Maru had not taken 9 SCVs worth of damage, he'd be at 41 workers to 39, which would have put him at perfect saturation for 2 bases. And he probably wouldn't have messed up any macro since then. So faster, additional barracks going down, Stim has started, but he's still trying to make this work. Actually, if we're going to critique Maru just a little bit more here, this is probably a scenario right now, right here, where he should have just stopped trying. He gets another queen, which is okay, but he is microing the Hellbats instead of starting Stim, instead of getting 2 additional barracks. Engineering bays also aren't going down. I mean, this is all like within 10-15 seconds. It's very hypercritical. But he did choose to continue going for the attack with minimal returns and messed up his macro. So he didn't get a return on the investment, and he messed up his own macro. That's not very good. So things went from like decent to like meh, it felt like. And while Rogue definitely did not have the drone count he would have wanted, Maru also doesn't have the production he would usually want. Alright, terrible player, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, should be 2 barracks, 2 engineering bays. Yeah, clearly doesn't have to worry about taking his third because he has blue flame Hellions. Another thing that goes really awkward in this game is that I think if Rogue in, Universe B, if he had gone for a Baneling defense, he didn't actually end up needing roaches, so maybe he doesn't need Banelings. But if he had gone for Banelings, Ling Baneling, and that was his plan in this game, I think Maru has him pretty dead. The Blue Flame Hellions control the game a lot better, I think, and then the Roach attack doesn't find itself up against really useless units. He has faster tank production. So he doesn't build these extra Hellions. Again, not really getting a return there. You get a little bit of scouting. His factory, unfortunately not able to be used. If he had lifted this and flown it over and started double tank production, that would have been nice. But for Maru, what is he seeing? He saw the Roachborn being put down again, maybe? He did. I remember pointing that out in the cast, actually. But do they actually commit to roaches is obviously a question you can't really answer until you see roaches. And how often are you playing Zen? And then on top of that, how often are you playing someone who goes roaches on Zen? Honest question. I have no idea. You don't see Zen that often. But once again, Maru goes for this forward third base. That forward third base on the first map is just something you always do on Nightshade, so there's not really any point in being like, he made the wrong choice. He just did what you usually do. On Zen, this is definitely an odd choice. This is something that he would have found acceptable for other games against Lane Baneling in a position of power. But almost all other times, you would see the third base taken here. That means that this is not accessible, not really anyways. Even if you do break down a supply depot and try and send your roaches through there, they're coming in one at a time. Not very effective. And you've got this nice, one single little choke to deal with. You take a third out here, obvious problems. I can't even explain more than just the image of this is a problem. Fucking concaves everywhere. And you also get units over to the right side to actually, attack in. Suddenly you've gotten yourself into a terrible defensive situation, as well as I think, bigger opportunity to actually do run by and counter damage. So TLDR, really don't like this positioning, and not just because Rogue doesn't go for not just because Rogue went for roaches. I just think it's in general a very dangerous position. Totally understand it on Nightshade. On Zen, good God, fuck off. So dangerous. Anyways, again, Maru should have had 9 more SCVs to pretty much instantly saturate this. Well, not instantly saturate, but to saturate this third at all. His upgrades are unfortunately behind, as Rogue actually started +1 when he scouted the factory, guys. So it did seem like his intention was to go into roaches, even before scouting it, but, the timing was kind of weird. Previous maps were prepped for this game, so it didn't ring alarm bells. That's actually a very cool idea. That's a very cool concept. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's not, but I honestly wouldn't know. Just because the surprise factor of this game was not the continued production of Hellions. It was a similar timing of 6 Hellions showing itself, except that there was a second factory, right? So I don't think showing you building 8, 10, 12, 14 Hellions would have given any ideas to Rogue as to whether or not this would happen. But yeah, that's a cool thing to think about. Oh, Erlington, absolutely. Okay, to talk just a little bit more about this positioning. It's a similar idea as to Nightshade. You get an instant rally from the main to your third base. So you're kind of defending your third base as well as getting an attack pathway. Not through here because tanks, but through here to the fourth base. The would-be fourth or fifth, whatever it would be. Even here wouldn't be too bad, right? You just go... It's excellent offensively, but even against Ling Baneling, I just think that it is so dependent on you having control. There's really not a lot of protecting this base if you're not the one totally in control. And you have an entire right side of the map that you just aren't able to get much over there. You're not scouting it, you're not defending it. This goes down once, it's going to be going down multiple times. And that's also one of the weaknesses of Nightshade's aggressive third, is that you see a lot of run-bys go around the third into the natural. So anyways, it's an aggressive third that if you can be the aggressor, which Terrans are a lot of the time, then I guess more power to you. But if they're going roaches, if they ever catch you with a run by, banelings bust through, run by into the main, your momentum gets lost, it's dangerous. And then yeah, what matters most that he's up against roaches anyways. So do you actually lift a third and move it elsewhere when you realize you're up against roaches? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. But we have definitely a differently timed attack. This is like 160 supply instead of, what was it, 140 or 150? But that's because there was such a different early game. You can't really compare and contrast the two games. It hits before any upgrades are done. And you know what? Doesn't even matter. If Maru was considering moving to third base, it's at the exact same time he's attacked at his third base anyways. So he has to evacuate. So a little bit of lack of scouting again. This is absolutely understandable in this game. It was understandable in the first game, just, you know, very unfortunate positioning. But in this game, it's understandable too, because he just didn't actually have enough to do a drop yet. Like, this is him prepping for moving out in the map again as he gets attacked. Like, that's... Of course he doesn't see it. Of course he doesn't. He does scan, again, at a very unfortunate time as he's being attacked. Oh, great, I know what's going on. Thanks. Excellent maneuver here. You gotta go up to the main base. War count really does not look that good for the Zerg player here. You would typically look at this and be like, oh, Maru's gonna catch up. But Rogue has traded economy for army. And he had enough economy to do what he wanted. He had those upgrades a bit faster to do what he wanted. Now the complication is trying to beat Maru on the defensive, which I think should start to favor Maru. Defensively, hold up on two bases. His tank count has, for what he could do at the factory, I think it was okay. This is the second one that was floated over. He started producing tanks, but only after he wasted, let's say, like even 6 Hellbats, more than he really needed to do. Because again, those didn't do very much. 6 Hellbats, is that 2 extra tanks? Maybe. If they were 2 extra tanks, is that better? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah, the Hellbats don't really help here. But 3 tanks, I mean, that's a pretty sizable amount. I think what really sucks for Maru here is that his upgrades aren't done. Really, really sucks. I think you size up the army as Maru here. You got some decent medevac count. You've actually gotten Marauders in this game. Your Hellbats suck, but you still have 3 tanks. And you're like, that's not that big Roach Ravager army. I'm able to be able to push through that. It seems overzealous, but it actually kind of sometimes works out. But it really sucks because you didn't have his upgrades. One would literally just finished, and then Combat Shield was actually done. An extra 10 health on those Marines would have been helpful, because it's all about sustained damage when you're up against Roach Ravager. Banelings are explosive. If a Baneling hits you, you're probably going to die. Or very close to death is what actually happens. So the medevac doesn't really get a chance to heal you. Roach Ravager doesn't usually kill anything that quickly. So medevac's get a very long time to heal. Not if you're down 10 HP. So not only does he miss combat shields, he also probably should have pulled back into his tanks a little bit sooner. Because even though that was an okay number of bio, the tanks here are the real anchors. So kind of a double whammy there. It sucks. He also uses a medevac and a tank to corrosive bile. Well, this is going on. Nightstorm's happening in the main base, but he is also dropping. The Hellenes start to kind of make up for themselves. But he lost 2 tanks, a medevac, all of his bio army. Main base is now contaminated with icky Zerg things. It's a little bit wet and wild. Most amazing thing during this entire game is that he fucking takes the forward third again. Like, that just seems very, very bold to me. Is it wrong? Maybe not. Maybe it's not wrong. Maybe he actually, like, you know, is taking care of an attack like this, and then he believes the momentum of the bio, and he actually uses this. But, like, oh my god. Am I crazy? Am I the crazy one here? Is this not just more susceptible to concaves and being attacked against a type of style that actually is going to, like, fucking attack you over and over again? Am I the crazy one? Why don't you take this one? Why wouldn't you? Is there a rule of thumb for Terrans when to get upgrades? Depends on the build you chose to do. Let's push an army towards the base. No, I get that. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I get that. You must have missed the earlier 40 minutes of this analysis. I understand why you take a forward base in many scenarios. The problem is you're up against someone who is attacking you. Roach Ravager is an army that does well with, I mean, most armies do well with concaves, but especially well with concaves because they mitigate the amount that a tank can help you, and tank's very important to the early game defense against Roach pushes. Roach Ravager is an army that gets worse over time, even if they continue to upgrade to 2-2. Roach Ravager just gets worse as you upgrade to 3-3 and get to tanks. And it is more about just keeping defensive as you realize, oh my god, not only are they doing a 1-1 Roach push, they're also doing a Nidus Worm. For Maru to look at this and be like, you know what? I will have my chance to attack. I will eventually have enough here within the next 1 or 2 minutes to push into you and make you feel uncomfortable is actually really bold. It's confident. I'm not going to say it's insane because maybe, again, he could be right, but it is fucking confident. That's my point. We all know why Terrans aggressively expand on Nightshade. It just doesn't work out in particular against like something that Rogue is doing, which is probably why Rogue does it. Rogue in the first game, amazing decision. Rogue in this game, it turns out to be an amazing decision. Hello. He actually handles the Nidus Worm surprisingly well considering the position he was put in. His upgrades are all done. It was kind of mostly before that +2 attack was done. I love how like all this is going on. It's like, you're running out of minerals. Okay, so he pounces on what was left over queens. That's a good pounce. Try and get anything you can not put into the Nidus Worm. He did some counter damage. So Rogue was at what? There was like 60 workers, so he killed like 12. Something like that. But Maru got 30 SCVs killed. It's a lot of damage to take. Still not like a terrible scenario though. It's not the worst scenario, I should say. But Rogue at 50 drones still actually has enough economy to build units. And that actually what ends up being, I think, one of the biggest things, pitfalls of Maru's game here, is that he's probably thinking, you know, I took a lot of damage, but my opponent's on 3 bases. His Zerg on 3 bases can't do very much. I just took out a big portion of his army, which he did, but they got turned into very useful units. Ravagers are quite good. I eventually should win out, even though I lost an economy game. Because, you know, mules. Because my army gets better. But his army only really gets better if it has upgrades on the way. And his medevacs have energy. So he is just straight up down in the economical game. Him pushing here makes absolute sense. And it's actually, at this point in time, a good push. He is down 1 upgrade, but not 2. He does have a lot of Marauders. Even the Concave goes in his favor here. He dodged the Corrosive Vials. Ravagers without Roach protection are quite bad. This is a fantastic push. And behind it, he is trying to recover his economy. I honestly thought the game was over at this point. And there's that rally through the middle with that forward third. But what ends up happening is a bit of a tug of war, right? And when you're actually playing a tug of war game, Having this forward third in a very vulnerable spot ends up being a bad idea. Also, fucking shout out to queens again. Queens are so cool. They transfuse the hell out of each other. They don't die that quickly. Just they don't take extra damage from anything, and they just lived. They fucking lived, man. You know, this is probably that time where Maru's like, I've won, right? Like, look at this army. It's 2 Ravagers. It's like a bajillion queens. Like, I've won, right? I mean, look at my bio. I still have enough economy to rally. Like, it's good enough. And I really can't fault him for thinking that. Turns out there's Ravagers being built elsewhere. If he had done, like, more drops at this point, it probably would have been better, because these queens are apparently a stone wall he cannot cut through. He's also not clearing up any creep because, I mean, you can't afford scans. So he does go into a drop. I forgot about this. Doesn't do very much. I mean, it was so seen, right? And, Rogue has some pretty brutal decision-making. Who the fuck would do this? You see a triple drop of, like, a lot of Marauders, too. You know, nothing weak and easy to kill like a Marine, I guess, but... You see that triple drop, and you're just like, lol, fuck it, let's attack. Oh, who would do that? Who would do that? Rogue does. It's just like almost always a terrible idea. And you know what really sucks? Not even to harp on the third base location again, which is in a dangerous location. If that tank was back here, and the army had a concave here, not a bad fight for him. Even if he's down 2 upgrades, it's probably not a bad fight. The tank goes down, because why would you ever expect to push? Why would you do that? I got a triple drop headed right towards your natural. And his bio doesn't have a lot of medevacts either. So instead of having nothing here, an unfortunate rally, and then he saves his third over here, he loses his rallied units and loses his third CC. All the while being denied access because of a spore crawl and evolution chamber. I'm guessing he had he had already unloaded, so it was a bit unfortunate, and then he got walled out because tackling this wall would have taken too long without doing anything. He also probably would have taken too long to get to the main too, and the queens. If he had gone to the direct route, would have killed him. So his drop does nothing, and it doesn't scare the Zerg either. He's gonna call Rogue a fucking madman. Like, what? At the time of the cast, I didn't quite realize how absurd that was. A triple drop. The queens can handle it. Who says that in a TVZ at 13 minutes? The queens got it. It's all good. Of course, he was also reinforcing and probably thought he'd be fine there, but that was a very bold attack. And he actually escaped with a decent number of units. He killed, again, the economy. The armies could still be problematic if Maru had upgrades, but his upgrades are obviously very late. So he gets away with enough, kills his opponent's economy once again. And while the army of the Terran should be getting better, it doesn't have time to get better. Goes to the drop again. This time I don't think Rogue saw that, so his push makes more sense. It's not nearly as madman. Now I see that this should be... I usually don't like Doom drops against Zerg, because if they have Banelings, you're just putting yourself on a creep, but this makes... The drop makes a lot of sense. I just really want to just focus in on something, guys. Can we just really focus in? Now, I'm not a Zerg hater, okay? I think Zerg is a very difficult race that I cannot control. That's why I don't play it. And I think sometimes people really just, they laugh a bit too much at how good queens are. You know, they're good, but they're useful things to have in you. But, oh my god. Do you know what made this arm move away? One, he doesn't have a scan. Maybe if he had scanned to see what else was coming, he would not have escaped. I'll say that. But he's got this much army of actual fighting units against this much army, 5 roaches of actual fighting units, and then 8 queens. And that's what he evacuates from. Queens really were the best unit in this game. They held the evolution chambers. They held the almost game-ending attack here on the Nidus Worm. And they just held a quadruple drop in the main. Doesn't he just lose if he trades your Medivacs for 40 queens there? Oh, no, I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that Maru was, like, a coward. He actually might have been right. Because, again, he doesn't know what else is going... He doesn't know what else is coming forward. It could be 10 more roaches. He doesn't know what's popping out of the egg. Could be 10 more roaches. It's just really funny that what ended up pushing that drop away was 90% queens. Whether warranted or not. That's what pushed it away. That's kind of crazy. So at this point, once again, losing his economy while doing nothing in return. He's pretty much nailing the coffin. Finally catching up on the upgrade difference doesn't make a difference since he's fallen behind so much.
Hostile forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
And he also has never really gotten an opportunity to increase his tank count. He couldn't really afford it for most of the game. Pure bio can be better, but obviously you also usually have tanks. Thank you, Spinny Shuba, for that raid. Oh, it's so funny. It's so coincidental. You guys just missed me going over how fucking good queens are. Ugh. You heard? Oh, good. Queens really saved Rogue that game multiple times. GG. GG. Were the upgrades good? Yes. Were the queens good? Yes. Last game here. So at this point, all that momentum Maru has built up from the middle 2 games is gone. Because he lost not a game that was over in a flash and he gets a chuckle to himself about, like, haha, I didn't see that Baneling buzz coming. No, a very hard-fought game with a few wrong decisions, a few instances of bad macro. And things have really reset for game number 5 on Triton. This is what I pointed out earlier when someone asked me, hey, is Zerg too good? I said they might be a little overpowered. Maybe. Don't take my word for it. I'm not in a position of power to say yes or no to that. But in my opinion, maybe a little. But I said I think the first 4 games were all about Rogue tackling Maru as a player and Maru tackling Rogue as a mechanically. The 5th game felt more like a defining moment as to why Terrans are frustrated with Zerg. We'll put it that way. It wasn't, oh, you got bopped by Hellbats. It wasn't, oh, you didn't see the 1-1 Roach push coming. It wasn't, oh, that drop should have done more. Like, no, this was just Rogue playing not to Maru, but also to all Terrans. Because this ended up being a game that you see a lot of when you watch TVZ, and it's sad. It's just sad. You watch the Terrans' hopes crumble. Like, it peaks when they have their 8 racks and their 3 CC, and then the run-by happens, and it goes... It's like, it's honestly the gif of The Simpsons, where it's like, and this is where his heart dies. It's like, ah. talk more about that. Some small quality of life changes for Terran. Was it Nate's post? Sounds like something Nate would complain about. Actually, Nate did have a very... He had a good post pointing out what some of the small, like, not noticed differences are of the Terran's mechanics versus others. Which I thought was, you know... Does it, like, I mean, it's a... StarCraft is literally, like, 3... What's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. I'm trying to think of the phrase! Where every race is different. Asymmetrical balance. There we go. Woo, okay, I did it without you guys. It's an asymmetrical balance game. So, like, should everything line up with everything else? Not necessarily, but... It's good to point out. Anyway, so we once again have a Enduring Bay block. I feel like I could really, like, if I want to get out my notebook and just, like, put my glasses on and just, like, well, this Engineering Bay delayed this hatchery by 10 seconds and it's on Triton, which is a 1 second map higher than Nightshade. So that's why it actually did some damage. Like, I could, but I don't want to. I'd rather someone just ask Maru what his choices are about committing to an Engineering Bay block versus not committing to one. I really would. Can you just, one of you guys just do that for me? That'd be great. I actually think that Maru did a very dumb build. You can't call pro gamers dumb. I didn't. I said he did a dumb build. I really don't like the build. I was a non-believer in the Hellions, even in the game that he won. And I tried to keep that light on the cast, but deep down, I was really against the Hellions. If I wanted to look like a fucking 1000 IQ genius, I could have been like, you know what? In game number 5, he's going to do Hellions again, past 6 or 8, and he's going to die because of it. And that would have looked like a flippin' genius. But I didn't, because, you know, the chances of being wrong there were very high. And I didn't want to be that much of a Debbie Downer, but I really didn't like this build. So... he starts off like he does on game number 1 with Banshees. Again, no Vikings. So that last, that Blue Flame Hellion game was the only Viking build. So it was Banshees with Hellions, 3cc. Nothing weird here. Faster stim than other builds. Well, not really. I guess this is kind of actually the slowest stim you get. But he goes for a Hellbat build. So you might be like, well, what is that different? Like, why is it so different? Hellbat builds either, like, the earliest one you get hits at 4 minutes, I think. It's like the fastest one. That's like only Hellbats, nothing else. The usual armory timing for Hellbat attacks is 4 minutes. I'm pretty sure. So you have an armory coming down at 4:40. That's 40 seconds later. There is something to always be said about those later Banshees, those later Colossus drops, like things that are off-timed. Especially when you're talking about professionals. Oh, it's 5 minutes. The medevac drop hasn't come in with Widow Mines. I guess he's not doing it. 20 seconds later, medevacs come in. Oh, why would he do that? That's so what like wrongly timed. There's something to be said about that. In this particular case, it did not work out very well. He is doing a later Hellbat push to try and catch Rogue being greedy. I'm actually going to pay attention to what timing the Hellbats hit. So I can see... Okay, so the Banelings is only just now thrown down. Yeah, he didn't actually even defend us with Banelings. Did he? I don't think he did. It was fucking Queens again. Goddamn Queens. Swear to God, Queens. Anyways. Banshee gets some, you know, something done, but mostly about scouting, I think. And it's all obviously more about this. Rogue really has no idea it's on the way. He hasn't gotten anything over here. He doesn't have anything directly scouting the main base or the armory. This attacks at 5:30. So yeah, Rogue actually has nothing. So this is one of those things that attacks weirdly off-timed, but before anyone is actually ready to go. It's not like Rogue is already at 70 drones preparing army. It's not like he's already preparing a couple banelings expecting a 7-minute tank push. Like, no, this is a weird timing that you would think would still do damage. He's got a Banshee. He's got 2 Banshees. He's got 9 Hellbats, 10 Hellbats. And a Reaper even. So how the fuck does Rogue actually hold this? Like, everything seems to be going for Maru, alright? The best thing for Rogue is that he was already building Lings. Like, that's great for him. He was already building Lings, kind of coincidentally. Probably just preparing for, you know, the Hellion sacrifice that Maru was doing in earlier games. Of course, as he realized what it is, he's like, fuck, shit. You know, come on, more Lings, but... Alright, first of all, he lets his Lings not take on a gigantic force of Hellbats. I almost said Firebats. Hellbats. He catches 2 alone for full surrounds. That's already really nice. Banshees go down. Banshee goes down. She didn't have enough energy for Cloak, so that was kind of a freebie there. Queen number 1 is taking fucking all of the splash damage. She actually is tanking that shit like a boss. He probably clicked on that queen because it had the most energy. So these queens aren't even taking that much damage. 2 Hellbats down. Reinforcements taking a little while. Another queen pops out. Spore Crawler does its damage. We're down to 6 Hellbats, and they have not really broken into the economy. They haven't actually even broken into the queen line. 2 queens died, but Rogue had 7 to begin with. Queen number 3 goes down, but there's no reinforcements. And despite the very odd time of that push, it's held in roughly the same way we'll see other Hellbat pushes held. The queens buy time, get themselves a concave, and eventually wear it down. Yeah, slay queen. Yeah. Rogue is just... I mean, he's very good at queens, I guess. As stupid as that sounds. And he's always had good control of his units positionally. It's very tempting when that push first happens to go, oh shit. And then you use your Lings immediately because you think they'll buy time, and then they buy like literally half a second or something.
Twitch Prime sub received.
Instead, he took out 2 Hellbats and tripped them up so they weren't on top of everything else. The one Banshee also going down sooner than she probably should have was also a big deal. And very, very quick thinking to reposition the Spore Crawlers. Very quick. Thank you, D-Summit, for the Twitch Prime sub. But that ended up not being a very good push. It was a surprise, but it was not a good surprise. So, looks like 3 queens will survive. He's remaking 2 of them. His upgrades are faster. So, what did Maru sacrifice to do that push? He got an armory. He got 11. Ew, math is hard. He got 5 more Hellions. And then with an odd number of Hellion production means that same amount of time as if you made 2 more Hellions is 1 more Hellion being made, right? So a lot more time was spent on the factory not building add-ons. 6 more Hellions is also, or 5 or whatever, is also 500 minerals, which is 3 barracks. And then on top of that, whatever the armory cost and whatever that delayed. So primarily what I'm pointing out here is that his production is late. So there's not a very swift follow-up to this. And that is oftentimes when you see the Zerg player just like after just calming down a bit and let their heart attack pass, they really rev it up. You know, ideally they've cleaned everything up. Don't they build many more Lings? They go into full drone mode. They get a 4th base. They get the queens start creep spreading again because you don't kill creep when you do the push. So you have active creep tumors, and hopefully you have any amount of queens left over to even more creep tumor pushing. It's a pusher. It's a drug pusher. Because the Terran's like, oh, I just pushed off my production to do that. You don't push off your stem that much for that, or combat shields for that, which is the good news, but you definitely push off your barracks production. And you do push off your upgrades, but he was already going to be behind in upgrades because of the build Rogue chose. So I'm already not a fan of Maru's position in this game. He's going to have to immediately medevac drop to try and continue the pressure. He's continuing to do the Hellion thing, which I don't think is very good. The one thing that I really wanted to see and that we didn't ever see is using the Hellions as Hellions. If he had done that and then had like Maru micro and made everyone freak out, you know, applause all around. It's great. He makes it to the finals. But he uses them as Hellbats, which makes them... They're just not complicated to attack into. Widow Mines are complicated. You have to split either preemptively or during the engagement. Tanks are complicated. Either you have to like get a surround or come in with a gigantic concave. Hellbats are not complicated. Ideally, you get a surround, sure, but you just run behind the Marines because Hellbats are slow. And then you just crash in with Banelings. Like, it's the easiest thing you can crash into. Hellions, as Hellions, can be controlled, especially on the outskirts of creep, to stop any surround from happening with the Lings until you whittle them down to just Banelings, and then focus firing Banelings is actually not that difficult. But we never saw that, and I was really bummed. Because it was actually a push that I remember Soul used in Challenger. I don't remember the exact build order, but the idea is that he would have a drop, 16 Marines, 2 medevacs, but he'd also have 6 Hellions. And he would just like tango. He'd do a little dance off the creep. And Zerg players would just be like, hey, what the fuck? Like, stop doing that. That's not legal. But yeah, he never did that. It was just Hellbats, and I found them so extraordinarily lazy. There's a work in progress build. Kind of, like, and if you're saying, well, maybe because he started with Hellions, wanted to continue building Hellions, I just don't see any logic. I just don't see why I would ever do that. Why not immediately go into Widow Mines? The only reason you usually see Hellions past the point of 6 or 8 is either they're Hellbat pushing with them, or they're afraid they're going to be run by and need Hellions to help defend because their Marine count isn't high enough. But he is legitimately going for Hellions as part of his push again. I do think there might be something to be said about just maybe like wearing the Zerg down. Because Widow Mines, there's an equal chance they get 10, 15 Lings to the chance that they get 2 Lings, right? Especially against someone who's very good at microing. So I could see the reasoning is that you have to keep on the pressure. And even if Hellbats don't add a lot to a main Marine push, they're still more reliably part of the army than Widow Mines would be. And tanks take too long to transfer into and produce. So I could definitely see that. It's just, in this game in particular, he never really got much of that aggression. Like, there wasn't actually a lot of momentum that was built off of this. This wasn't him just, like, hammering and hammering and hammering until Rogue just, like, ran out of larvae and Banelings. Rogue actually recovered. So he has enough slow Banelings, even. He cancels his base. He has another 4th anyways. Still send us CDs. Just has to buy a little bit of time for more Banelings and difficult hooks. Time he's totally willing to give up there. And Maru just needs to have done more. Needs to have upped the pressure immediately. And the time bot with his rogue defense. Maru down on economy, trying to do... He's actually not even doing an 8-racks thing. He did build a second factory, but it looks very uninspired. You're not even using the factories, not even using the medevacs, because his economy was just hit. And he's still down on upgrades. He could win using mostly Hellion Hellbats. Yeah. Triton, this should actually be a complicated position for Rogue to defend, because this is already pretty close to this. Just walk on downtown. But this is even closer, right? This should be something where Maru can, again, just, like, consistently dig into Rogue. But Rogue had not taken enough damage. There is again, Universe B, okay? Like, Universe B, where Rogue loses all of his queens, pulls his drones, he loses mining time as well. Sacrifices 20 more lings. Like, you know, all that stuff that really adds up. There's a world where that happens here with the first Hellbat push. And the second one kills a fourth, kills creep tumors, kills a half, 6 banelings. And then this push just catches Rogue on his back foot. Unable to recover, unable to get enough banelings. I believe that world exists. And that's the world where Maru looks super convincing and no one can ever doubt his greatness. It wasn't this one. It's a very dangerous point, though. I mean, Rogue having this as his other 4th base was quite unfortunate. He dives on top of that 4th base. He doesn't have enough for a scan, so the creep ends up being a problem later on. I do remember that. So he grabs a 4th, but no drones, and no mutas, and no creep tumors. Grabbed a couple banelings, for sure. Sees no 4th base. Might be thinking about this one. Hasn't checked for it yet. Has repaired the damage to his economy. After all, Rogue thrown down to 3 bases, heavily oversaturated, is not ideal for him, for sure. But he didn't lose those drones. So 75 workers are about to resaturate, in fact, just now. As it scans. And this is, again, we'll look at the movements of Maru here, because it's just so damn good. But he's trying to make sure nothing catches him off guard to kill his units, but also making sure that nothing distracts from the momentum. So he's got the army dealing with the mutas. He's got an army possibly looking to run into the 4th base again, I'm not sure. And an army because he saw the run by. So he's deflecting all of the aggression, but he also needs to be on the aggressive himself, which is something he was doing an excellent job of on Eternal Empire. Again, this little hit squad was killing a 4th base, or 5th, whatever it was. And the mutas had actually already been completely shooed away. And there's a very slight difference here, where the mutas continue to find damage. The run by keeps most of the army at home, all of the army at home. And while Maru is still very good about trying to figure out where the mutas are going, this is all not doing anything to Rogue, who has resaturated a 4th base, is getting a 5th base, and is even continuing creep spread down the middle, which is very scary. His creep spread this game actually ended up being kind of lackluster. But the mutas, they're not doing anything directly, they are doing a hell of a lot indirectly. By the time he collects himself and pushes, Rogue has actually benefited from about a minute's worth of 4th base mining again. And his first 3 bases were still okay, healthy minerals, so... He's got the benefit, he's recovered any supply deficit, and he is ready to go with lots of banelings. Creep spread also, again, that issue I was talking about. Not just little creep spread, banelings better on creep spread, but also scouting is being done from Rogue, who sees a nice, easy pickoff on the left side that sets up for an opportunity to get a gigantic surround. Doesn't even go for the surround. Goes to the 4th base, which was very, very bold of Maru to put on location. This game also could have been different if Maru had put his base over here and then lifted it. But he wanted to fluidly move into the next stage of the game. He wanted to control the game, get his 4th base up, push from the 4th base, while simultaneously defending it. Didn't happen. Loses the fourth, loses his third, loses control of the game. And this is the exact moment where the heart crumbles into pieces. You know the Terran has lost too much economy, too much momentum, and cannot recover with any attempt at diving. And this is where things just get really sad. I mean, it felt like it wasn't that big of a... It didn't feel like it was that much, you know? It doesn't look particularly impressive that Rogue moved his army from a potential surround to just simply winging it and going here and there. Like, it doesn't look very impressive. He just kind of did it, and then he left. And yet that one move really determined the end of the game, I feel. It was already not going well for Maru, not well enough, I guess I should say. But then that move there just absolutely took out any chance. And then the rest of the game just feels like you're watching someone slowly die. And it's not that fun. And that's actually like something I like to discuss sometimes. Thank you, CPJ, Twitch Prime sub. Something I like to discuss sometimes. You know, like, let's hypothetically say, love of God, hypothetically say that Zerg actually is overpowered. There's some way that we can actually determine that. Why haven't they actually been so accused, right? Protoss has one good season in the GSL. J'accuse. Overpowered, fucking nerf him. Why in particular has Protoss actually been that race? To have one or two really great seasons and then just be like, you're nerfed. Get out of here, son. It's because the way they win just seems so dumb. Either it is maybe a bit easier for the Protoss to win, or it doesn't look very hard for them to win. When they just roll up with Immortal Sentry, force field a couple times, and win, like, how is that supposed to impress people? Is the execution flawless? Yes. Is the force fields good? Yes. Like, it doesn't look very impressive, though. And that's really what the difference is. It's like, you know, BC did a video of design versus balance, and that's certainly worth discussing. Thank you, Maynard, for the host. But it's one of those things where I think it takes a lot longer for the other races. This is why Protoss has been so heavily abused for so long. I think it takes longer for the other races to actually just look like bullshit. Like, literally, like, visually look like bullshit. Blink Stalker's the main kill stim, bullshit. A long 15-minute game where creep spread eventually envelops the Terran and mutas are controlled correctly and Ling run-bys happen, not that bullshit. All those things happen with a lot of skill involved. But the more that it wears on you, the more that you watch the same thing happen over and over, you start to think maybe it isn't actually that good. Maybe it isn't actually that impressive. And that's, I think, when people start to bring up the discussion of balance. It's when, you know, it's like a lot about the visual things. I set up a hypothetical to try and discuss why there's very like abrupt like explosions of balance complaints, I guess. Of why it went from like, I think balance is okay, to, oh my god, balance is the fucking worst. And to me, it has everything to do with the visual stuff. Everything to do with just like how often we see something that looks bullshit until we all start to think maybe it is bullshit. Is it actually bullshit? That's not what I'm answering. Does it look bullshit? That's what I'm answering. Even though no powered side? I mean, yeah, there's always balance complaints. There's always design complaints, but, ooh, boy. Zerg started to do okay at IEM. Complaints started creeping up. Zerg won IEM. Fucking just stonks, man. Stronks. Every Reddit thread was about balance. I think just visually, Protosses look to be the more BS one, which is why they almost always get a decent meta and then kind of get slapped. Why historically, over the last 10 years, Protoss has gotten slapped. Why Terran and Protoss fight each other and slap each other, and Terran's like, or Zerg rather, is like, no. Anyways, I feel like this engagement was kind of an engagement where you saw Maru realize he was dead. I'm gonna look again. Okay, I got my upgrades and the drop going. I still got a shot. You know, I have 4 bases, kind of. Let's do this. Oh no, there's tag defense at the 4th base. That's not great. Oh, that's a fuck ton of banelings. That's not great. Oh my god, that's so many banelings. I hope the Thor took care of all of it. And at the exact same time, a run by happens, and he's like, oh no. That Thor really did tank, though. And at this point, if that was a Protoss army of Chargelot Archon that just got devoured there, you're feeling pretty hopeful. Unless they have like 1 or 2 storms, I guess. But you're feeling pretty hopeful. Against a Zerg, you're more so thinking, okay, I did a good attack there. I'll grab a 4th base, maybe a 5th, but can I actually push on a creep before they make more banelings? I don't know about that. At this point, you already think you're dead. And there's the confirmation. Yep, that's it. GG. Oh. I hope you enjoyed my analysis, guys. That last game just quickly dissolved into what people, I think, are frustrated with. Just the feeling that Zerg has many options and Terran has one direct option that just works or it doesn't. Again, talking about people's feelings. We're getting emotional over here. But the first 4 games, I think, were like very amazing displays of players reading into each other. And pushing their style and proving why they're champions. Like Rogue going for the attack on that 4th, on the 3rd at the time, I didn't really give it a lot of credit, but just rewatching it and being like, he pushed instead of defended. That's not. That's bold. Last game, not nearly as interesting. But Maru did a Hellbat attack that kind of failed, and then his follow-up Hellbats. I just think their idea doesn't work when that first attack fails. I'm actually a little bit more on board the idea, if you're someone like Maru, to just continue to fuck. I'm on board the idea that if you're Maru, if you're a very, very good Terran player with bio, and you can keep the momentum up, to continue forcing your way with Hellbats, then I think it can work. It keeps up a momentum. It puts the pressure on the Zerg player to always remake banelings. Like, I get it as an idea now when I watch that, but is it actually going to be good? Well, probably not. You ignored. I mean, I just didn't see it. I didn't Ghosts against Queens. By the time you get to Ghosts, Queens aren't the problem. That game on Zen was a very unique game. You never see Queens defend as well as they do in that game. If you're asking why didn't he make Ghost with the Hellbat push against the Evolution Chambers, you can't afford Ghost at that time. Your push isn't going to work. If you're asking why didn't he use Ghost towards the end of the game, he couldn't afford Ghosts. You gotta get a Ghost Academy, and then you actually gotta get Ghosts themselves, which are still pretty fucking expensive. They also don't contribute very well to mid-game Zerg scenarios. They are best at dealing with unique units, big, important, but quantity-wise, not that much units, ultras, right? Because their actual attacks against roaches don't do very much, and their rate of fire isn't good enough against lings or banelings to do a whole lot. So, thank you, Silly Dolly, for the 14-month resub. The Ghost Hellbat push is cool. It's obviously a different push, but you're absolutely right. That does exist. But it also is just used for snipe. Because the amount that you actually have to, like, push an attack to win. How to say? Like, you don't have a lot of units that will actually end a game with that push, right? 16 Marines could end a game. They snowball very quickly. Hellbats, we saw in many iterations of this series how they don't end games. They deal damage. They don't end games. You include a couple of ghosts in there, they also don't really end games. And an EMP wouldn't be the difference maker. Yeah, queens also don't stack up. I guess just like physically, it's a good point, Meganith, is that they don't really clump up. High Templars are very small and easily clump up. They get EMP'd beautifully. Zealots, small, skinny, easily clumped up. Queens, fat. Usually walking over each other. Usually getting, like, dragged down by, like, having to walk over a drone or something. Fat and clumsy. They're usually not super clumped up. How do we win the fight? Again, if he's talking about that fourth game on Zen, it's so unique, and there's no way you afford ghosts. And also that game, I mean, people pointed it out, you know, when I was kind of hamming up the whole queens are good part, is that their main concern is taking out medevacs, which EMPs wouldn't help defend medevacs. The queens would probably